Hi, everyone. I'm Suzanne Hume, the founder and director of CleanEarthForKids.org. We're a nonprofit, and we work to protect clean air, clean water, non-toxic lands, and have a lot of fun doing it. So thank you so much for being here. I'd love to introduce our youth board, and they've worked so incredibly hard and are so accomplished. So thanks again for being here tonight. So I would like to start with Gabby. So Gabby, would you like to say hello and introduce yourself?
Yes, so hi, I'm Gabby, and I'm also from CleanEarthForKids.org, and I'm on the youth board for media. And we have 6 teams here. Team 1 is climate action, 2 is trees, gardens, and wildlife, 3 is air pollution and no idling, 4 is water and no fracking, 5 is no pesticides and toxic chemicals, and 6 is plastic and pollution. So you are welcome to join one of our 6 teams as a student, intern, or volunteer. K-12 students, you may enter a contest or take notes from this panel discussion or work on projects for community service hours. Our K-12 contests consist of art, music, writing, presentations, STEM projects, and so much more. To learn more about our K-12 contests or community service, please go to our Cleaner for Kids website. If you're taking notes for community service hours, please remember you need to take 2 full pages of notes plus a summary paragraph. Instructions are on our cleanerforkids.org website.
Thank you so
Gabby.
much.
My name is Leanna. I'm also on the youth board, and I co-lead Team 1 for Climate Action Plans, Renewable Energy, and Sustainability. The title of today's panel discussion is called EPA ROLLBACKS, PFAS, and Pesticides, Part 6. I just want to thank you guys for joining us. You can write your comments and questions and ideas in the chat box that you've not seen or heard. You're also welcome to stay on the call tonight to ask Suzanne or our board members any questions or share ideas. If you'd like to be a guest on our panel discussion, please contact us at cleanerforkids.org. And if you'd like to learn more about rollbacks or undoing of protections for our water or air or lands, go to the homepage of our website at cleanerforkids.org. We have a list of 95 rollbacks or undoings of protections for our waters, air, and lands. We also follow Harvard and Columbia University's their postings of the rollbacks and so forth. Today we will start with the rollback, or a loss of protection for our water. During this COVID-19 pandemic alone, our current administration has rolled back rules on air pollution monitoring, carcinogenic pesticides, Clean Air Act's benefits, key medical research, and so much more. But today we will talk about a rollback in regards to the wetlands and so forth. Last week, Janice from Team 4, Water is Life, gave us valuable information about the rollback or undoing of protections for wetlands and streams. Gabby, could you please remind us about the rollback and tell us a little bit about that, and tell us about the states that are standing up against this rollback?
Yes, thank you, Leanna. So the wetlands rollback is narrowing the definition of the waters of the United States, the Clean Water Rule. This rule defines which streams and wetlands are protected by the Clean Water Act. A narrow definition would leave many wetlands and streams vulnerable to pollution and would hurt the quality of our drinking water. This rollback or undoing of protection would also hurt our wildlife. To begin, a wetland is a place where there are no ponds or marshes, birds, ducks, frogs, insects, and different kinds of plants living in an ecosystem. Under this rollback, wetlands could be destroyed and the wetland could be filled in with dirt, leaving no place for the animals or the ecosystem or extra rain to prevent flooding. Wetlands help filter our water because trees and plants help clean the water. Without the wetlands filtering pollution, more toxic chemicals would make its way into our drinking water. More pollution could get into our storm drains, and this would also hurt the fishing industry because there would be more pollution in our water. So it is clear that these essential wetlands and streams are an essential part of purifying our water. The Trump administration wanted to limit the definition of what waters were protected and not include protections for wetlands or stream or areas that were not filled with water all year long. Some streams and wetlands fill up with melting snow or rain. The Trump administration wanted builders to be able to fill in wetlands with dirt and build on it without moving or relocating another area somewhere else. So in the West, up to 90% of wetlands could be just filled in with dirt and lost forever. Also, people who restore wetlands and preserve nature would also be out of a job.
So what has happened as a result of this rollback to wetland protection?
So California, New York, and 15 other states stepped up to help protect our wetlands and our drinking water and are suing the Trump administration. the Attorney General Xavier Becerra from California said, "Clean water is a fundamental right. It is essential to preserving California's biodiversity and protecting the health of our children and communities. We don't intend to turn back the clock on clean waters." This rollback is supposed to take place on June 22nd of this year. The waters of the United States roll is also known as WOTUS.
Well, it's great to hear that many states are stepping up to protect our water, which especially during times like now. So that is really great news. So, Gabby, we are all excited to see the movie Dark Waters, starring Mark Ruffalo, and discuss it next week. There's so much to talk about PFAS. We've heard PFAS are called forever chemicals, and we have heard that PFAS are in our drinking water here in California and in many parts of the country. But I believe that there are actions we can take to make a difference, and glad that some of the members of Congress will be taking action because there are so many of us concerned about PFAS. So could you please tell us a little bit about specifics regarding to PFAS and what we as a community can do?
So yes, PFAS are a class of over 5,000 chemicals called the forever chemicals. And today I'll be talking about PFAS. So PFAS are a class of 5,000 chemicals that are in plastics, nonstick cookware, that are getting into our water. When these chemical compounds were invented by DuPont in the 1930s and the nonstick pan called Teflon invented in 1946, people had no idea these chemicals would be around forever and get into our water. People who cooked were excited to use the nonstick pans because the food would not stick to the pan and it would be easier to wash. The most common PFA chemicals, PFOA, which is called the Teflon chemicals in pans, and also the PFOs, which is the stain repellent people may use to spray on a couch or shows to not get dirty. These chemicals from 3M Scotchgard have been linked to serious health issues, including reproductive problems, low birth weight, weakened childhood immunity, and cancer.
Okay, so along with Teflon pans, where else can PFA chemicals be found?
So PFAs are used to coat paper and cardboard wrappers for fast food and bakery goods, treated to make furniture and carpet stain resistant and clothes stain or water repellent. These forever chemicals are also in cosmetics and other personal care products. Also, as PFAs are found in firefighting foam. The Department of Defense has also known about PFAs since 1970, but did nothing to clean them up. Most of our military bases have PFAs in the water.
Well, that's really unfortunate that PFA chemicals contaminate public drinking water systems. I mean, Michigan and other states have done extensive testing that found that they have the most PFAS contaminated sites.
Yes, thankfully in January, Congressperson Debbie Dingell from Michigan helped the House of Representatives pass important legislation to help protect water.
So I know that there is some legislation regarding HR 535. What are the goals of HR 535?
Well, first off, HR 535 wants the EPA to classify two PFAs, PFOA and PFOs, as hazardous. If we classify these chemicals as hazardous, cleanup could be paid for with money with a Superfund. And second, HR 535 would also establish a national drinking water standard. This is important because today it is estimated that there is as many 700 PFAS contaminated sites in the US, and that more than 110 million people are drinking PFAS contaminated water.
So if we're able to classify PFAS as hazardous, then this can help us pay for cleanups. And I know a lot of cleanups are referred to as like Superfunds. So could you go a little bit into more detail? What is a Superfund?
Yes. So if the PFAS are classified as hazardous, then the US has to clean it up within 5 years because we have a law called the Superfund law.
So how much will it cost to clean up these two kinds of PFAS?
The cleanup of PFAS will cost over $300 million. So let's protect our water and our health and save money and stop PFAS from going into our environment in the first place. Remember, PFAS are chemicals that are used in things with non-stick coating, like pans, furniture, clothing, and textiles, sporting equipment, dental floss, food packaging, industrial fire retarding chemicals, and much more. It has been reported that while the EPA has known about this issue since at least 2001, the widespread contamination may be even worse than previously thought.
That's just crazy to me.
Yeah, I was agreeing. Absolutely.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. So I'm sure many people in the audience, as well as I, are kind of concerned about this. So could you provide us with some information on like what we can do about it?
Of course. So The federal legislation is desperately needed, but for legislation to be effective, the Clean Water Action reminds us that it must do many things, including identifying all pre-fluorinated chemistries in use, including firefighting foam, food packaging, and products, and to track the use of these chemicals, and then regulating how and if new 1-PFAs will be permitted. Successful legislation will not prioritize and enforce cleanups, but also determine where and how all of these chemicals are getting into the water supply in the first place.
So what is our current administration doing to protect us from these dangerous forever chemicals?
Unfortunately, President Trump has already threatened to veto, or say no, to passing this important bill, and the White House has issued an official statement with their stance. It is also still unclear how the Senate will act given the official White House stance. We need the bill to become a law. To become a law, all bills must pass the House and the Senate.
So what can we as a community do to help?
So some ideas include talking with representatives to ask them to learn about PFAS and why they should be classified as hazardous. To have a goal of bills passing both the House and Senate, or you can try to prevent these chemicals from being sold. You can also get manufacturers to change their product or the chemicals in the product, and to limit our exposure to PFAS wherever possible. We are still gathering statistics about how much PFAS are in our water.
So, Gabby, you talked about an opportunity for us to help label PFAS as hazardous. Can you please give us information on how we can write a public comment that will help the state of California and give others ideas of how to pass this in their own cities and states?
Yes. Now, I'd like to give you an opportunity to write a short public comment that will help California classify toxic PFAS as hazardous in California. We wish we were banning PFAS instead of just classifying them as hazardous, but this is our first step. I will put the link into the chat now. Or Suzanne, can you please put the link?
Yes, and thank you. That is excellent. Excellent information. Our youth board is so incredibly impressive, the amount of research and time that they put into all of this. And yes, we're absolutely wanting to label and classify these PFAS as hazardous. Please help us take this and many other important actions. So yes, you're amazing. So yes, we will put that into the chat soon, for sure. So Gabby, are you going to share then, let's share the link for the Department of Toxic Substances Control, the DTSC, and show people where they can write their public comment and help this happen. So this is so important. And I know later you're going to talk about synthetic turf and how PFAS have been found in synthetic turf and all of that. So thank you so much for all of the important work that you're doing. So this shows how to submit a comment. And so as you can see below, here is a sample comment, and it actually talks about synthetic turf. There have been, cases of synthetic turf with all kinds of terrible things. Lead has been found. There's no safe level of lead. But we're here today right now to talk about PFAS, as that is said. So here's a sample of how to make that happen. So also we found, and we're really excited about this piece, to find a petition online. This is not our petition, up to ban synthetic turf, because plastic, the COVID-19 lives on plastic for up to 3 days. And so we know that these artificial fields containing so many toxic things that we're worried about, we need to stop this. And anyway, yeah, so what do you think? I don't know how many, I'm wondering, I think in 2 days it has almost 200 signatures.
Yes, it has 200 signatures.
Okay, so take it away, Leanna.
So I just want to talk a little bit more, just briefly about synthetic turf, as some people might not know what it is. And so synthetic turf, also called artificial grass or fake grass, like Suzanne said, can contain like lots of toxic things like lead, heavy metals, all these toxic chemicals, including PFAS. So we already shared with you what the petition looks like. So if you guys would like to sign the petition, we strongly encourage you to do so. It is important that we get synthetic turf out of fields that already have plentiful of healthy soil and healthy grass, especially because it can cause things like MRSA, which MRSA is an antibiotic resistant infection that was found on 70% of synthetic turf fields tested. And for people like athletes, just children going to play on these fields, that is incredibly dangerous, as like I stated, it's antibiotic resistant, so it's really difficult to get rid of, and in extreme cases can lead to many dangerous causes.
Yes, we would like natural grass fields to be available for students and athletes. As Leanna said, lead and heavy metals and PFAS have been found in our synthetic turf. Also, COVID-19 virus can live on plastic for up to 3 days, like Leanna said. And synthetic turf fields are giant carpets of plastic with some cushion built in. Synthetic turf fields are very bad for the environment because there's nowhere to recycle them, just one place in Denmark. There are also tons and tons of plastic and chemicals literally in just one synthetic turf field. Also, synthetic turf fields are expensive and must be cleaned all the time.
Yes, because playing on natural grass is much safer than playing on synthetic turf or fake grass for many reasons. And also, like mentioned earlier, COVID-19 germs can live on plastic for 3 days. So this is just not safe, not only just for COVID-19, but for any future viruses or infectious diseases that happen to have a long lifespan on things like plastic. It will also require them to be cleaned more often, which is just, like we stated earlier, really expensive and all those really bad things. So we were disappointed to learn that city council people and even a school district out of state is considering installing a synthetic turf field, especially when COVID-19 is going on. We're not even at school to speak about it. And also for all the athletes, the young athletes specifically, and students at those respective schools and cities.
Yeah, I'd like to just give Hannah a shout out. So Hannah, your video that you made, your video clip that's on our Clean Earth for Kids Team 5 synthetic turf page shows you talking about reasons for no synthetic turf, and you were an athlete and you spoke to the city council several times and told them about how as you're playing and your mouth guard comes out that the coach isn't just going to stop right there. Yeah, right? So would you like to say anything about this?
Yeah, I would. So synthetic turf, it's very toxic. So I've been playing lacrosse when I was younger, like 3rd grade. So every time when high school or whenever we play on the synthetic turf during our games, like, is so bad our mouthpieces will come out. Like, our coaches won't pull us off. We have to pick it up with all that dirty toxic chemical rubber tire parts and put it back in our mouth to keep playing. Like, the refs won't call a timeout. Like, nothing will stop. You can't even rinse it off because, like, you have gloves in your hands and trying to get the turf little particles out of it. It's very hard and very challenging to where you have to put it back in your mouth and you just put so many toxic chemicals in your mouth.
Right, and I think you talked also about how your shoes were melting, or no, it was your lacrosse stick or someone's lacrosse stick.
Yeah, so in summer at Virginia, they had a tournament going on, and it was really hot, like 90 degrees, and when athletes that played lacrosse, like, the bottom of their cleats would melt on the turf because of how much hotter the turf made it, and their sticks would melt also, like warp to where they can't get the ball out.
Wow, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I know, Gabby, you had something that you wanted to share also. Thank you, Hannah.
Yeah, thank you, Hannah, for sharing that. It's very important that we know what synthetic turf does to athletes and kids like us. So fossil fuels are used in the making of plastic, and to reduce air and water pollution and greenhouse gases, we must stop the drilling and fracking. So we would like workers currently working in fossil fuels or coal or oil to have opportunities for jobs in renewable energy. We must provide workers with opportunities to be retrained. Leanna, why is renewable energy important to protect our air, water, and public lands?
Okay, so I'm going to just kind of give you guys a brief overview of what renewable energy is. So obviously renewable energy is an energy from infinite sources. So whereas things like fossil fuels are finite sources, which means that we will eventually run out of them. Whereas renewable energy, it comes from energy sources like the sun, wind, through geothermal, which is like from the ground, like through things like that, like through our tidal waves and numerous other sources. And it's important because one, it's a long-term energy solution. Two, it, like Gabby just mentioned, it can provide lots of job opportunities, especially in the transition from fossil fuels to renewable energy. And three, because it is sustainable and it is most environmentally friendly. So we must invest in renewable energy and stop investing in fossil fuels, because fossil fuels gives us air pollution and greenhouse gases, whereas renewable energy does not. They do not produce methane, carbon dioxide, or any of the sorts, whereas fossil fuels do, and they can provide a lot of health problems, whereas renewable energy does not. So there are a lot of things to be considered through that. One way to invest in renewable energy and the overall reduction of greenhouse gases is through climate action plans. So climate action plans are like these strategic frameworks for cities, counties, school districts, states, and like federal governments and like countries that work to first measure the greenhouse gases and then implement reduction and mitigation strategies against it. So I know we might have some audience members from the Midwest and so forth, so I'd like to provide some good news about St. Louis, Missouri. People are taking climate action, which is great. So the city of St. Louis in 2017 created a climate action and adaptability plan under Mayor Francis Slay. So this is a bold step because it seeks to achieve an 80% reduction in citywide greenhouse gas emissions by 2050. Now, the current mayor of St. Louis, Missouri is Ms. Cruson, and she's signed ambitious energy efficiency standards into law for St. Louis buildings, which this is huge and such good news because about 80% of the city's total greenhouse gas emissions come from the buildings themselves. So this is the first of its kind in the Midwest. It's called
So excited about this. So excited about this.
It's so exciting.
So, I know.
Everything you normally hear are from like coastal cities and so forth, but not a lot of people hear about good things happening in the Midwest, and there is. So this is great. So it's the first of its kind, like I mentioned. It's called the New Building Energy Performance Standards, or BEPS, as I like to call it, which follows similar policies in Washington, D.C., New York City, Washington State, that reduces pollution and greenhouse gases while also helping local job growth and a greener economy. So using renewable energy like solar will save money on their energy bills, and it also protects our air and water, as both of those are impacted by fossil fuel works. Also, have any of you guys heard about Bloomberg's Philanthropies American Cities Climate Challenge? Because I just heard about it and it's awesome.
I'm so excited about it. I think this is just amazing, and I am so excited for everyone to hear about this because this is really going to help us move forward to reduce greenhouse gases and toxic air pollution. So I'm so excited about this. So please tell us more.
So it's basically an opportunity for 25 ambitious cities to significantly deepen and accelerate their efforts to tackle climate change and promote a sustainable future for their residents. So like we have on the slide right now is the website. There were 25 winners, so they've been accepted into, it's basically a 2-year acceleration program that gives them these resources and access to all this cutting edge support and technology to help them meet and beat their near-term carbon reduction goals, which kind of goes hand in hand with like the climate action plans and climate action and adaptability plans I previously mentioned. So it's obviously funded through the Bloomberg Philanthropies program and so forth, and it's pretty awesome. I think it's definitely a step in the right direction, especially it's going to help cities that might not have previously had the resources and opportunity to do such a thing. And I think it's something we're really going to keep an eye on for sure. And it's also important that for cities who do not have this opportunity, that we help them create climate action plans, which we have done here in California. I'm personally working with City of Vista to try and implement a climate action plan. We've done it in school districts. And if you are looking into creating a climate action plan in your community, the best way to go about it is to, find out if there already is one. And if it is it implemented? If it's not implemented, it's important to talk to your city council, go to those meetings, speak in public comment, and really get your word out there. And if there's not, we have a lot of resources at cleanforkids.org under Team 1 Climate Action Plans. We have climate action plan samples for literally anything you can think of, whether it's a school district, a city, a county, a country. We've got it for you. And you can use it as a baseline or as the final product, depending on how you go forth with it.
And I would like to just say shout out to these guys who are working on Oceanside, the City of Oceanside, California Climate Action Plan, Vista Climate Action Plan, looking at the county, city, all of that. So yes, so our 6 teams are there, and Leanna leads Team 1, Climate Action. And so it's so important to look at the kinds of things that we can do to take climate action, and super excited about the Midwest and to hear about this fantastic challenge. We have challenges of our own. And also I was thinking, as you were saying that, we were so lucky to put no idling policy into the Oceanside Climate Action Plan. And so we're hoping, so we'll contact the people in the Midwest and everywhere. And Hannah, we'll share your essay that you wrote and Judith's artwork, you know, and all of the important things that you're doing and the ideas that you guys have all had about how to make a great climate action plan. And those can be viewed, our action plan is on cleanearthforkids.org. And so what we did was we took our 6 teams and we thought about ways that cities could use, you know, ideas to help reduce greenhouse gases and also toxic air pollution. I'll just give CARB a shout out. So we're really excited about the opportunity that we have through the California Air Resources Board to make a dent in greenhouse gases by posting children's art, kids art, the art of youth around with no idling signs, printing them, taking the paper drawing that they have, or they do it on the computer, and we print it on metal signs and then put them outside of schools. This makes a big impact, and later, if not today, then next week, Hannah can talk more about her essay, and these guys can all share more about that. So sorry to jump in there. I just wanted to give you guys a shout out. Yeah, you're so awesome. Okay, fantastic. Now, with that said, we know that there are these rollbacks going on, and we're really concerned about what's going on. So we've got the good news, but we're also very practical about that. So yes, okay.
Yeah. So
would you like to share? Okay, yeah, go ahead.
To kind of finish up what I was talking about beeps earlier with in St. Louis. The plan applies to buildings 50,000 square feet or larger that were already required to report their energy and water use under existing city law. And so now those buildings will move beyond reporting into incremental energy saving actions that will build over time and like kind of, you know, accelerate, such as like energy saving best practices and investing in upgrades to systems like AC and heating units, which is really, really vital. So this move is just the latest and a bunch of local action that comes in the absence of federal climate leadership, unfortunately. While our current administration continues to roll back environmental protections, city and state leaders have invested in so many things, from like clean cars to renewable energy to public transit and food waste reduction, which are a lot of things that will all inevitably help in reducing our climatic impacts.
Yeah, this is really good news, because we have heard that over the past few weeks that fossil fuel enablers in Congress have been attempting to bail out polluting oil companies, gas companies, and coal companies instead of investing in renewable energy jobs and helping retrain workers and help them get jobs in renewable energy. As we know, the problem with fossil fuels is that they are polluting our water and our air. Why would we give money to polluters to continue it instead of retraining workers and get jobs in clean renewable energy?
I know, because before COVID-19, the clean energy industry was booming. It was growing quick, had about 3.4 million people employed by the end of 2019 alone. And wind technician and solar installers were the fastest growing jobs in the country. So to me, like, I agree, like, why would we give money to polluters instead of retraining these workers and trying to produce clean renewable energy? But with this COVID-19 situation, over 106,000 jobs were lost. And if no action is taken, over 500,000 people, that's 500,000 people, will lose their jobs in renewable energy. And this is because people were not asking for solar installations in their homes during COVID-19, and it reduced the need for solar companies. Also, the Trump administration has cut financial help for people getting solar energy and for the companies who make it happen. So instead of providing financial help to renewable energy, we're providing financial help to purely fossil fuel companies, and that is just not sustainable at all. And I think it is totally the wrong move, especially considering the statistics we've provided before about the booming renewable energy system.
Yeah, I totally agree, because we need to support a clean energy economy and let members of Congress know to please invest in solar, wind, electrical vehicle, battery storage, microgrids, and most of all, retrain workers from fossil fuel jobs so they can work in a stable industry with good pay and be making an important difference. So what else do we need?
Well, for one, I think we need our current administration to approve renewable energy tax credits, including solar, offshore wind, storage, electrical vehicles, and energy efficiency, and increase funding for a thing we have called the Low-Income Home Energy Assistance Program, which is also called LEHEAP, as I like to call
it. You said that well. Good job.
Thank you, Hannah, for the update on our renewable energy. So, Hannah, I heard that there was good news to share about getting more electric trucks on the road and reducing air pollution. What's that ACT rule?
Hi, Gabby. Thank you. Hi, I'm Hannah Smith. I'm a leader for Team 3, No Idling, Clean Earth for Kids. So the good news is that California is close to passing the nation's first zero-emission truck sales standard, called the Advanced Clean Trucks ACT rule. The ACT rule will help get more electric trucks on the road and reduce air pollution. This is very good news. Car exhaust is very toxic. 1 minute of idling has more carbon monoxide than 3 packs of cigarettes, and 1 gallon of gas burn can put more than 20 pounds of carbon, a greenhouse gas, into the atmosphere.
Exactly. So we're excited that the California Air Resources Board, also known as CARB, just released their latest version of the rule. This is after drafts and workshops and much planning. This is really important because we need clean air. As you said, burning fossil fuels pollutes our air and water and harms people and the environment. It's said that COVID-19 is taking the lives of people. Harvard has shown that African American communities are dying at a higher rate from coronavirus, and air pollution is to blame. We must reduce air pollution.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes, so the air pollution is burning in the fossil fuels. When some people are exposed to more pollution, based on where they live, it's an environmental justice issue that's happening in African American communities and frontline communities in sacrifices zones, basically people who live in areas that are most polluted because they live by busy roads or highways. Factories are sources of pesticides, and it seems that no one cares. The polluters keep polluting and people get sick. Somebody needs to do something to protect these communities.
Yes, I wholeheartedly agree, as I am very passionate about environmental justice myself. So, Hannah, we previously on a panel, we've talked to environmental champion, my guy, Dr. Mustafa Santiago Ali. And Dr. Ali created the Environmental Justice Office at the EPA. And he was here to talk with us a couple of weeks ago about environmental justice. We had the pleasure of doing that and having a lot of conversations, really, really important conversations about such. So, Hannah, can you please tell us what a frontline community is?
Yeah, so a frontline community is where people with less resources live on the front lines. That means these people live close to toxic air pollution. They live near busy highways, airports, power plants, or factories. People aren't benefiting or profiting from them. They aren't living by the pollution.
Yeah, these frontline communities are really, really important to talk about. Like you said, they're closest to sources of toxic air pollution. These are the people that don't necessarily have the means to move away from these areas impacted by pollution from factories, airports, highways, and so forth. So it's really important that we discuss that as well. So thank you for talking about that. We also heard about the term sacrifice zones from Dr. Ali. So could you go a little bit into detail about what a sacrifice zone is?
Yeah, so a sacrifice zone is when people are exposed to higher levels of pollution and there is little to no enforcement or protections for these people from the pollution. The highways pollute, the power plants pollute, and with the terrible undoing of protections from EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, which is supposed to be protecting our air, our water, and now it is even worse. Most people living in sacrifice zones are people of color, Native Americans, indigenous people, or low-income people. It's the people who don't have the power to stand up to change the problem. These people could become very ill and have chronic ongoing health problems because they live next to the air pollution or the pollution.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning that. I think that is something that is really overlooked a lot within when we talk about environmental issues, are these sacrifice zones, these frontline communities that are primarily filled with people of color, Native American, indigenous people, low-income people. They're disproportionately impacted, and it is truly something that we definitely are trying to fix and we need to fix, as like you said, they become sick and have chronic or health problems. And this kind of connects with the current situation of COVID-19, where people are more likely to get it and are more susceptible to get it if they already have pre-existing health problems, including respiratory problems, which are a lot of the times pollution connects, not even a lot, most of the time, pollution and respiratory issues go hand in hand. And I think it's really important that you talked about that. Also, next week, we will also be talking more about systematic racism and discrimination and why so many people of color and low-income people are in these sacrifice zones to begin with. And a big part of that is called redlining. And we will be discussing that in our next webinar. So Hannah, is there anything else you'd like to say?
Thank you. So the head of the EPA, Andrew Wheeler, who was a coal lobbyist, took away the clean cars standards. This will add more pollution in our air.
So how is, I kind of like touched upon it a little bit, but how is air pollution linked to COVID-19?
So it is linked to COVID-19. It has higher risk from the death of coronavirus. Harvard researchers found that air pollution can worsen make coronavirus cases worse. In fact, the Harvard School of Public Health did a nationwide study, found out that people with COVID-19 who live where there was higher level of air pollution are more likely to die than those people living in less polluted areas.
This is crazy that people living in these areas of higher pollution are more likely to die from COVID-19, and that just furthers the environmental injustices that are already occurring in those areas.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's
So-
so unfortunate. So I agree. Yeah, it is so incredibly sad. So Kevin shared some information, and so did you, Hannah and Judith and others, about air pollution. And can you talk a little bit about that and how that even happens, the connection between air pollution and COVID-19?
Yeah, so researchers discovered that it only took 1 microgram per cubic meter of particulate matter to lead a 15% increase of the COVID-19 death rate.
Wow.
There are many ways to reduce air pollution. One way is to stop driving cars everywhere. Walk, bike, carpool, take the train, or get an electric car. Next week, we will also talk about California's subsides low-income people in polluted areas get electric cars. Gabby, we learned that fossil fuels are also used in pesticides. We've been working to learn more about how we can stop toxic pesticides from being used in our communities because they are harming our people, our water, and our air, and our wildlife. Could you please talk to us about the bees? We have heard that pesticides are killing the bees and the bees to produce our food. Could you give us some information, please?
Yes, so can everyone see my screen?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. So today I will be talking about neonicotinoids, which is a very important topic to me because I care a lot about wildlife and bees. So, what are neonicotinoids? So they're in the class 4A of pesticides. And neonicotinoids are a class of neuroactive insecticides chemically similar to nicotine. And they're designed to be less toxic to vertebrates, but highly toxic to vertebrates like bees, butterflies, and other insects. And they're also approved for home and garden use. So people can actually buy these and purchase them and then use them in their homes and in their gardens, and they can overuse it, which is more detrimental to the environment. And it's lethal to the insect population because the residue concentrations cause death in insects such as honeybees. So why do we need an alternative? So in 1980, there was around 6 million beehives, but since then, the number has decreased to 2.4 million just because of pesticides.
Wow.
It's the second widely used group of insecticides used in the world for this and the past decade. And the exposure has led to fewer bumblebee queens and lower reproductive success, as well as lower amount of colonies in the world. And bees are essential to our ecosystem. I mean, without them, we wouldn't have the circle of life. And because they support growth in plants, they serve as food for other predators, and they are a main part of our ecosystem. So here we have a graph that shows how we went from 6 million to around 2 million since actually the 1940s. But you really see a decline in the 1980s, as you can see, because the graph makes a little swoop and it goes back down again.
Mm.
So what should we do instead? So like we were talking about earlier, we're talking about IPMs, and we're trying to get the San Diego County to start getting organic, non-toxic IPMs with good soil and healthy microbes. And we kind of want to get rid of the following pesticides because they also contain neonicotinoids. And then while I was researching, I wanted to bring up murder hornets because having pesticides and murder hornets in the cycle of the bees is detrimental because having both of them will decrease the population even more. So the introduction of murder hornets has now become a big part in decreasing the honeybee population. With pesticides and this bee killer, we're looking at bigger drops in statistics of the bee population. So murder hornets can actually decapitate the bee killings of adults and they start eating the larvae of the bees. And bees in America don't have a strong enough exoskeleton, as in Japan and Thailand, where these actually originated from, to protect themselves from the murder hornets. And bees make up to 30 billion a year in crops. So without them, the human population of 7 billion would not be sustainable. And with murder hornets and pesticides combined, it takes out all the bees in the world, and it's just not going to lead to anything good. So that's all I have about neon nicotinoids.
Yes, thank you so much. So important. And yes, as Gabby stated, we are on a committee with the County of San Diego working to eliminate toxic pesticides here. And we were really excited to help Oceanside pass an IPM. We worked with many other partners and individuals, and we're grateful for that. We have local stars who do a ton of research, people like Diane Wilkie and Christine Gorman, and so many others, and Force, and groups, Non-Toxic Neighborhoods, Non-Toxic Carlsbad, Non-Toxic Irvine, and like I said, so many others that will come out and support us. Surfrider Foundation, North County Climate Change Alliance, anyway, here. But we would love to share all that we have, as we do, with everyone. And so what we're doing now is we're trying to eliminate and reduce these pesticides through an IPM, Integrated Pest Management Plan. And Darren is going to talk with us about that. She leads Team 5, and the amount of research that these people do is just quite incredible. I almost said ladies, but we also have Kevin and Justin and lots of other people out there helping us with all age groups. And we love the support from our consultants and our board. You'll have to check them out on our About Us. We have some stellar people, and we'd love for you guys to join us. So Darren, can you give us more information about what you're working on and what we need to do?
Yes, thank you, Suzanne. So first of all, I just wanted to bring attention to just the overall pesticide use in San Diego County. Again, we've been talking about it this whole time and how pesticides are super detrimental to human health and the environment. But here you can see, according to the legend, the darkest areas on the map are the areas where there's high amounts of pesticide use.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of those pesticides are neonicotinoids, like Gabby was saying, and organophosphates, which is another class of pesticides. Those are both used extensively in our county, and both of them are banned in tens of countries around the world. So there's a lot of consensus about how these need to be banned and how they're detrimental, but we just haven't gotten to it yet. I also wanted to touch on environmental justice, going off of what Lena and Hannah have said. So pesticides affect farmers and people living in rural areas and people with low socioeconomic status disproportionately. So, for example, 20,000 US farmers each year get pesticide poisoning, and often those pesticides get carried home through clothing and their skin, so their families are also at a high risk for pesticide poisoning. And the people also living in those communities where pesticide drift is really prevalent, even if they aren't in contact with any farmers, pesticides still make their way to their homes and their communities through the air. This also brings up the issue of racial inequality, because these communities often are made up of minority communities. For example, Latino children are 91% more likely than white children to be exposed to the highest levels of pesticides. So they may not all be in rural communities, but a lot of our farm workers are immigrants from Latino countries, or Hispanic
Background, yeah.
Yeah. A lot of the risks from pesticides are very grave, I would say. For example, cancer, birth defects, and learning disabilities. So not only is this causing like short-term effects like nausea or coughing, like you may have heard, but in the long term with chronic exposure, which these people are experiencing, it can be extremely detrimental, like I was saying before.
Yeah, sure.
There's also the issue of socioeconomic status, like I was saying earlier. For example, organic food, which is only treated with organic pesticides and non-synthetic pesticides. These foods cost 47% more on average than regular foods, according to 2015 Consumer Report study. So a lot of these people aren't even able to afford food that will be safe, and they also don't have access to the education that will help them learn how to pick out their food and how to clean their food after they buy it. So you may be wondering what we can do about all of these injustices. First of all, I'd like to start by talking about how we can protect farmers' rights overall. So, for example, this is a campaign or a petition from the Pesticide Action Network for the CARE Act, or the Children's Act for Responsible Employment and Farm Safety. And to summarize, it basically helps protect children who are working in agriculture by reducing their hours, increasing the minimum age, so you have to be older in order to work, and also limiting the level of pesticide exposure that they can be experiencing. And this is just basically to make it comparable to other industries that children are working in, like acting and things, so they'll just basically have decent protections so that they will be hopefully more safe.
Right, so this is on our website. So when people go to our homepage and they find the petition tab, you can sign this petition and others on our website and take action on the PFAS, the public comment. That's also on our website. So thank you so much, Darren, for talking about this and sharing. So I'm eager to learn more.
So if you're wondering why this is important, not only for everyone, but for farmers specifically, they provide an essential service. We all need to eat, and we would all probably like to have our food in the grocery store rather than having to grow all of our food or harvest all of our food. And these are the people that are doing that for us. So the least we can do is to make sure that they're safe when they're doing their jobs. It's also important because a lot of these people are undocumented. There's 700,000 agricultural workers in California alone, and it's estimated that 48%, like even as much as 70% of whom are undocumented. And the reason that this is important is because they don't have as many legal protections, so they're less likely to report pesticide poisonings just because it's so hard for them to get a job. They're just happy to have one, or they don't want to cause any trouble, and they're also aware they're not likely to receive proper medical attention because there's not a lot of safety protections for farmers, according to the OSHA, the Federal Health and Safety Agency. And the effects of pesticides therefore go underreported for both children and adults. So it's important to keep in mind that a lot of these statistics are less.
For sure.
Yeah, they're not as large as they probably will be, or probably are in real life. So there's a lot of things that they don't have access to. For example, only 57% of farm workers surveyed in 7 California communities reported receiving pesticide safety training. So like I said before, there's also a lack of education, and they also can't really get out of it because of their status as an undocumented immigrant, and also because of their socioeconomic status working as a farm worker. So another campaign from the Pesticide Action Network in North America is called Our Fair Harvest, and it basically covers a more general bases on farm workers and the injustices that they face and how we can help make things right. So we're working with them, and hopefully we will be able to make a difference with that. Also, there are some petitions out there, including one on Pesticide Action Network, to advocate against cutting farm workers' wages because the Trump administration has proposed wage cuts during COVID-19. So this will make it even harder for farmers and their families to survive and get medical attention and protect themselves, basically.
This is so important. This is just so important. I mean, such an environmental justice issue, and thank you so much for digging deep into this and all of the work that you guys do. It's so amazing. So when we look at the map, and it's up in front of us right now, of San Diego County, and we work with San Diego County to try to ban these toxic pesticides from lands that are leased, not just the county of San Diego, but the lands that are leased. This is legendary. This is so important. So we're hoping to be able to provide a template for other groups and empower people to be able to take action. So we were able to get a lot of traction on this because I myself have been poisoned by pesticides, living near an area right there in the black, the area on your screen. So it was easy for me, and I recognized my privilege to go in and talk with the County Board of Supervisors and start a nonprofit after I had my voice and my health back and knew I was going to survive. So this is very, very important to all of us here at Clean Earth for Kids, and we would absolutely appreciate your support. And if you know others that would like to join our campaigns, we would absolutely appreciate it. As Darren and Leanna and everyone said, we met with them last Friday on a call, and we anticipate continued cooperation. So our action was, instead of suing, we wanted to make a change. And so we're just really, something good happened out of something so tragic. So thank you again so much for that. So please continue, Darren.
Okay. So kind of going off of what you just said, another thing we can do to protect everyone, since as I talked before, not a lot of people can escape this pesticide use. A lot of people can't buy produce without pesticides. One thing we can do is to reduce dangerous pesticides everywhere so that we can level the playing field and everyone is protected from pesticides no matter their status or their socioeconomic status. So we can start locally. As you can see, San Diego, we have a big pesticide problem, but we would like to stop pesticides on public lands and the leased lands, as Suzanne was talking about. So what we did is, a few of us went to or attended an online meeting from the County of San Diego discussing the ban on glyphosate, and they were basically only looking to ban that particular pesticide. They weren't looking at banning a lot of other pesticides that are comparable in their health risks, and they're also only concentrating on organic pesticides as a solution. So I'm going to talk about things that we could do differently in the County of San Diego. So first of all, we should be banning a lot of different things, not just glyphosate. Basically, these are 3 of them. There's many more, but these are some of the worst. They're all neurotoxic. They all have reproductive issues. They're all banned in a lot of countries, and some are banned in some states already, so getting nationwide bans would be amazing.
Yeah.
They're also all used on common crops, and we're probably already being exposed to them from what we eat and where we go, because they're also used on like fields and parks and things like that. So just to reiterate, chlorpyrifos, dicamba, and atrazine are some of the other things that San Diego County should be focusing on, and not just focusing on glyphosate and thinking that's like the last step. Also, I think it's important to take inspiration from the Oceanside Integrated Pest Management Plan. Although it's not perfect, and we talked about that last time, I think that the tiered approach to avoiding toxic pesticides is way better than going straight to organic pesticides. So they start with cultural, mechanical, and biological ways to get rid of weeds, and other pests and insects. So one thing they can do is modify plant care practices, like the frequency of how much they fertilize, how much of the grass that they're trimming, like how high they leave the grass blades. They can also use manual labor or machinery to move pests. So manual labor, like just pulling up the weeds themselves, or also things like there's machines that'll pull out weeds, or there are like rodent traps we could use. Also, mostly for indoors, they're altering temperature, light, and or humidity to drive pests out of their buildings, just because it's not an ideal habitat for them anymore. And then also introducing beneficial organisms, and this can include pathogens, parasites, predators, competitive species, herbivores, and antagonistic organisms. So basically, they're just all organisms that take care of the problem themselves. Like they'll either like destroy their habitat or take over their habitat, or reduce population if they're a predator, things like that. And then they go to organic pesticides, and then they go more and more toxic as they go down. But the main point is that San Diego County is only looking at pesticides as a solution, but they're ignoring the most important thing, which is not using pesticides in the first place. Pesticides are better than synthetic pesticides, but there are so many other methods of reducing pests and weeds and insects that I just think it's way better to focus on those first, with glyphosate and also with other toxins if they hopefully consider those in the future.
Just a question, Darren. Somebody asked a question. It was Chris Gorman. He said he likes the pesticide map.
It's Christine Gorman, actually.
So sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry I'm not looking at the chat.
Sorry.
I'm so enthralled with what you're saying. I forget to look at the chat. So thank you, Leanna.
They said, I like the pesticide map. Is there a way I can zoom in to see actual streets or get a high resolution copy to see more details?
John will send that to, John just posted it.
Yeah,
Sure.
I'm not sure how far you can go and ask to see actual streets, but they're definitely divided up by like district, I think. So if you know like roughly where you are, like which section of the city you're in, then it will be easier for you to interpret the map. But, yeah.
And I guess I'll take this opportunity because we spoke a lot about like glyphosate, and especially Darren in her presentation, but it might be, oops, sorry, there's something. There might be something that
Okay, she might be frozen for a second. So
sorry.
Okay, there you go. Hi. Yeah.
Okay, hi. So I'd like to take a minute to kind of briefly go over what it is. It's one of the most commonly used pesticides. It's organophosphate, and it is toxic, and it is found in things like Roundup. It's one of the most commonly used pesticide or herbicide for invasive species, like invasive plant species, which I'll kind of talk about briefly in a second. And
you're a hero.
It's really, yeah.
Oh, I was going to say, because you have a great story to share. So I'm excited for you to tell people about what you did to stop invasive species without chemicals. So I'm super excited about that. Sorry, I jumped ahead. So go ahead.
Oh, no worries. So something as toxic as glyphosate, it's like known has reproduction effects. It's carcinogenic. It's toxic to a lot of species like bees and a lot of insects and all of those things. So we obviously wanted to get rid of it, and it is banned in Oceanside, and it's about to be banned in the county of San Diego. Yeah, great win. And we could talk again about with the city of Vista and other cities to also do the same thing. They have not banned pesticides, and they do not have an IPM. And as mentioned earlier, IPM is super important, especially a non-toxic organic IPM, because there are a lot of solutions to these things. So I personally worked on a research project last year in regards to an invasive plant species here in California called Algerian sea lavender. And essentially the species wouldn't allow for the growth of native species to thrive, and it would act as a mat. And for the longest time, they used herbicides for it. And the herbicides, while it would kill it, it wouldn't cause them to decompose, so they would grow back. And even no matter how long you tried to root them, these are very sturdy plants. Like they are like mats. So something we worked on was trying to find a pesticide-free treatment option for it. And we found success in a process called solarization, which is essentially the process of heating these species to the point where they will decompose. We used reusable plastic tarps, specifically dark, like you guys can see right now, dark black tarps. We've also tried clear to see which one worked best. As far as the research goes, the black tarp worked best as it trapped the heat in much more. And over the course of a few months, we leave these tarps out, and the Algerian sea lavender would decompose due to the high heat and it would die. But during this process, while the invasive species was dying, the native species were thriving and they were growing, and they were successful in outliving this heat. And so once we would take off the tarp, the sea lavender would be about like 95 to 98% gone, and native species were thriving again. So this is just something I'd like to speak about, because it shows that there are other options out there and other alternatives to toxic pesticides, especially for something like glyphosate that was so commonly used on species like Algerian sea lavender. So if you ever want more information on that, we have it on the website. But there's also other alternatives like organic pesticides, or like using things like ladybugs and so forth to make sure you're decreasing the toxicity in a lot of the plants and a lot of the food sources we have. So I challenge you to get involved and find out if your city has an IPM or has banned certain toxic pesticides. As Darren said, an IPM is a plan to reduce and eliminate the use of toxic pesticides by using other steps, strategies, and methods. So I really, really encourage you guys to like look in your community, in your cities, and look about IPM and get involved.
Yeah, so many great ideas, and thank you so much. So proud of all of you. You're just make us all so proud, and we have so much hope for the future with your bright ideas and all that you have to share. So awesome. Thank you. So we have a few more minutes. So Gabby, I think you're going to share some information about a way that we can make sure that we're safer with our products. So a couple weeks ago, Darren talked about, and she gave us a strategy of getting pesticides off of our produce. So Darren talked to us, and you guys talked to us about soaking our fruits and vegetables in baking soda for I think 20 minutes or so. And so important, and baking soda is very inexpensive. So this is just really important to do. And while I look at strawberries, I just have to tell you that the pesticides used on strawberries are very bad. So this is something that I look at that, and I just have to tell you, I avoid strawberries unless they are organic. And if I can't soak it in baking soda, I don't want to eat it, because I know what is used on these strawberries. It is a harsh, at least here in San Diego County, and we'll have to do the research of everywhere what people are using. But yeah, it's a neurotoxin. So you don't want to be around that pesticide. And after you bring in your fruits and vegetables, like from the store, make sure you wash your hands. It's just really important. So EWG, Environmental Working Group, has great ideas. They are a nonprofit organization, and they have a lot of great ideas. And so they have something that, Gabby, I would love you to share. You are, you're in media, you do like to do makeup for people, and use different products. So I'd love you to talk about the EWG app to help keep people safe that want to use, well, we all use shampoo, right? Shampoo and other things. So we'll give it a rating. So can you talk to us about the Skin Deep EWG app? I have it on my phone, and whenever I go, to the store, if I'm going to purchase something, I just scan it in. Can you talk about what you like about the app, and just give us some more information?
So as Suzanne said before, EWG stands for Environmental Working Group, and they basically have an app and a website. So if you don't want to get this on your phone, you can always just go online. But the phone is easier personally because you can scan it. And they have a whole database just for skincare and makeup. And if you're into makeup and like you really care about your skin, I recommend getting it. The site allows you to search for a makeup or skin brand that you may want, and it tells you which is the least harmful to yourself and your skin. And there's over 70,000 products on this app and website. And the reason why it's important, well, for me at least, to have this app is because the US government doesn't review the toxicity of makeup products because before they're sold, and EWG helps identify the hazard ratings found in products. So when you go on the app or on the website, they basically have a scale from 1 to 10, and 1's being the best and 10's being the worst, and the middle is kind of just there. And, when I first looked into it, I looked up my Anastasia Dip Brow, which is something I put on my eyebrows, and it was a 2, and I was like, oh wow, so like this is good for my skin, and I know that it's not putting any toxic chemicals on me. But then I went ahead and I looked up my mascara, and it actually went into the 8 range, which is really bad and has a lot of toxins, and I did not know
Get a
about.
different kind, please. Yeah, don't use the 8.
If
Wow.
you guys care, it's Maybelline Total Temptation Blackest Black Mascara. So if you're shopping for Maybelline mascara, don't do it because it's really toxic to your skin. So
Well, actually, but hold on let me say one thing. I do know that there is a kind of Maybelline that's a 3 that's mascara. So the kind that you have must have something else in it. So that's why it is so important to look at each individual brand. And maybe they all now are 8s and have added something toxic, but in the past, there have been, eyebrow pencils, mascara, things that have been 1, things that have been 2, and the best is 0, right? So we want to go for like 0, whenever we can. So for sure. So I'm sorry, continue.
So something that's very important to me is growing up, I struggled with acne, and it was just terrible. It was years of my life where I just struggled to find the right products for me, and it took me a long time. And eventually I found Curology, which is, it's the only thing that's helped me. But if I found this website sooner, I probably would have found things that wouldn't burn my skin or contain things that irritated my skin. And I just had no clue what I was doing. I was just buying any product that was like #1 reviewed online or on TV. So this website's really helpful to see products that's good for your skin type, and they're more reviewed, and it can just prevent a lot of
Sorry.
So I really recommend it if you want to take better care of your skin and prevent more toxic chemicals from being put onto your face.
Yeah, so very important. And we know an environmental champion that is Almar Suchi is doing such important work, and so we're going to actually give him an award. He is in the 66th district, which is not our district here in California, but when we see someone that's doing such important work, we want to shout them out, whether that person is in Florida or Missouri or on the East Coast or whatever. We want to know who they are, and we will shout them out. So give them awards and etc. So we have found Almar Suchi from California's 66th Assembly District having all these important bills. So Gabby, do you want to talk a minute about this?
Sure. So as we were saying before, cosmetic safety. So it's really important what we're putting on our skin or our face, because it's very important to treat our bodies right before we treat the environment as well. And we also are looking at, one second here, pesticides at school sites. The pesticides shouldn't be put in schools, in my opinion, and glyphosate is the #1 most used pesticide, and it's very harmful, so that shouldn't even be nowhere near children. Mm-hmm. And public lands, leasing prohibition for oil and gas. We want to reduce as many fossil fuels as possible. Environmental justice, also regulation of oil and gas operations.
And keeping them away from kids with the setbacks, right? So as you saw the pictures before when Gabby was speaking, you've got a school, and then you have right there, you have all of these sources of toxic pollution, these refineries, and just all of these things. And so it's not good at all. So we're so happy about that. So continue, sorry.
No, you're so kelp restoration and resilience program, and then greenhouse gases and carbon neutrality, once again, trying to cut back on as many greenhouse gases as possible, and hazardous substances like metal containing jewelry. I know that me and a lot of my friends were allergic to some metal in our jewelry, and we don't want really our skins being irritated by that. So having that cut down is a good way to go.
Right, and you don't want heavy metal in there or lead. I don't know if you've seen before. If you are buying like a little necklace or something like that, and you flip over the tag and it says for adult use only, but let's say it's Mickey Mouse. I had this experience when looking for something for a student, and it was her birthday long ago. She was, she is on our kids youth board and has done important work. It's Victoria. Anyway, and so I thought, oh my gosh, she cannot be wearing this, and what's in this? And this is before we were really digging as deep as we are now and have learned what we have. But thank goodness we have people like Representative Almar Asuci and others. And we're also shouting out Mike Levin, Congressman Mike Levin, for meeting with us and giving our youth board and others so much support, the important work with Tijuana, the Tijuana River Project to eliminate and reduce sewage and keep our water better and reduce the red tide and harmful algal blooms, things like that. So anyway, he's just done a lot of great work too. So he'll be joining us, I'm not sure, soon. So they've let us know that they would love to be on and talk to us about the important things that they're doing. Mike Levin is supporting the ban on chlorpyrifos, a neurotoxin that's being used currently in 47 states. Thank goodness, as Darren's slide showed, it is banned here in California, New York, and will be in 2021, and 2022 is Hawaii. So we're excited to work with Congressman Levin. He's been an amazing ally and so accessible, and great with working with all kinds of people across the aisle and every which way to really be helpful. So we're excited about that. So guys, thank you so much for everything. Your work is just, again, so outstanding. So I'll be on for a little while. I do have a meeting at 7 that I need to attend, but I can stay on after this call and answer any questions. I can elevate people that have been on this call to panelists so that we have the opportunity to see you and say hi. But I understand if you don't have time to stay on. Thank you so much for being with us. And, huge shout out to the youth board and consultants. We're so pleased to have all the help. And, our board member, Jake Kloppenstein, is on here and so incredibly helpful. And I was really excited to see that Craig Lang is on here. He's got incredible ideas for wind energy and has done all of these important patents and things he's lent us. Yes, Leanna, I just saw you come on. I was like, yes, I knew you were there. So you're going to be excited to talk to Craig about the things that he is doing. He's an engineer and he's done amazing things in wind. And we're excited about that. So exciting, and so glad to see Debbie and Elijah and Alicia on with NAACP, and so excited for the youth to be involved. And Debbie has just been so gracious and amazing, and so we really appreciate her support. Yes, and of course my Aunt Jana is on, and we're super excited about the actions that she can take in Springfield, Missouri. And Leanna, thank you for giving us some information on St. Louis in her honor. To be able to shout them out as well.
I forgot to mention, Springfield also has some important climate work going on. They're working on, oh my God, I cannot remember the exact name of it. It was very long, but it was a mix of a climate action and sustainability plan. So
for sure. Next week. How about next week?
Yes, I will talk about that next week.
Yeah, that would just be
I just want to thank everybody for the questions that you guys typed in. And
we'll get back to everybody, right? And I don't know if you did. Again,
I already answered them, so we're good.
Oh, you did? How? That is amazing. I'm so focused on what you guys are saying. I don't look at the chat like I need to. So yes, and thank you to my cousin George Nagels, who is on here, who is just incredibly brilliant, multiple degrees, and always has amazing ideas for us. So thank you so much, George, and of course, Julie Morrisseau, our consultant for zero waste and plastics. So we will be doing a zero waste and plastics panel discussion and talking about, Jay's got some things that he's sharing with Sierra Club and California retired teachers. And so there are many retired teachers that we can share this with, not just here in California, but nationwide. So thank you guys so much for being on here. And we have other guests with us as well from different places. And so thank you again so much. I can see Diana's on the call, and we're excited to have conversations and all of that. Thank you for your work in synthetic turf and pesticides. So guys, we'll sign off for tonight, but I'm really excited about next week, and we will let everyone know what time, because we have been going at 5:30 on Thursdays. If we need to move that up a little bit, we will, or how we need to move it. So we're flexible with that. So we'd love to hear from the people that are participating, and we're really excited about youth being involved in learning and talking about their favorite animals and how to protect them and all of those sorts of things. So you guys, thank you so much for everything. So Youth Board, I guess you'll be signing off unless you want to stay here, but I'm sending all my love and appreciation and gratitude. You're so incredibly amazing. So, and I'll stay on if anybody would like to be on the call. So thanks again. Okay, bye guys. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye.
Chelsea. Bye.